All right, here we go. All right, so an official welcome, and we are doing a class this morning. This is Perfectionism in Athletes, How to Notice the Inner Pain, Reframe Goals, and Develop Positive, Healthy Minds. But let me just say that my mom and my dad, but particularly, and I think that we may realize that your same gender parent is who you relate to the most, and often who you learn from the most, because they model for you just naturally. But my mother, a mother of 7 children, she actually taught me the most about how to manage my thoughts and feelings. And I think she was very intuitive about that, because later on, after I had gone to college, she went back and got her master's in marriage, family, and child counseling. So she was a therapist for many years, but she's very intuitive. So I'm going to tell some probably Lori stories. That's my mom. Okay, so let's see here. I think I have this is in the way. There we go. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just trying to go to the next screen. Sorry. There we go. All right. All right. Perfectionism in athletes. What is it and how do you recognize it? So I just thought I would start with this because you probably either have seen signs already, or you just want to kind of feel grounded in what are the symptoms and signs. Perfectionism is an ongoing cycle, and I want to emphasize that it's ongoing, of refusing to accept anything short of perfect, focusing on mistakes, setting excessively high standards, obsessing about rules or lists or just the training. Could be homework, schoolwork, struggling to relax and share feelings. This is one thing, is that perfectionists often feel they need to be tough. Athletes especially need to be tough. And they struggle to share feelings. And then feeling depressed by unmet goals. It kind of hangs on a perfectionist. And they will almost kind of ruminate, it whirls around in their mind. They didn't meet the goal. They failed. Frequent self-criticism, disappointment, and frustration. The all or nothing thinking, and fear of failure. And this could be failure or fear of many things, not just fear of failure, because it's just a lot of fear of judgment, fear of being criticized, isolated, rejected, all kinds of fear. Do you have an athlete with any of these behaviors? Does anybody recognize any of these behaviors? Yes. Yeah. Okay. And when you do recognize, I'm trying to find my cursor here. So when you recognize those behaviors, what comes to mind for you, Sam?
So I'm in this space, and we're talking about this before the call, of having been an athlete and I checked all those boxes as an athlete.
Yeah.
And also now parenting, and I have 4 girls, and one of them in particular, it elicits tears, like a little bit of emotion in me. So I can share with your lead whatever you want me to talk about with those specific pieces. I think the general feeling is, and I struggled with this for years, post competing, was like, okay, well, aren't those things that help me be successful? Aren't those the pieces that drove me to success? And so I think that's, that comes up for me, though I know the answer. That's what my first thought is when I read that list again.
Yeah, and I also go to that place too of thinking, well, I pushed myself so hard. Athletes who do this, we think, wow, this is great. They're success, they want it so badly. This
Mhm.
is great. But at the same time, there's so much pain. There's so much
Mhm.
inner pain. And so, this is our big quest right now is as parents and coaches is how to teach kids to balance it. But first, we need to learn how to balance it ourselves. And that's what I'm going to be leading into. But give me a specific example for you, Sam, of what you did to yourself, or maybe because of the environment, because of messages you received. What
Mhm.
was your experience, and approximately what age? Like what comes up for you as a memory?
So the list, I'm trying to, is there a way for you to pull it back up? Because if I see it,
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
so many stories, honestly. I think that, the one that's coming to me now is when you said this ongoing cycle and that they hang, like the hanging of this disappointment. And I think that for me was something I, would look back on and might make mistakes, or I'd, wouldn't do as well as I thought I should do, or, fall short in some capacity. And I would just ruminate and ruminate and ruminate and ruminate, and it would hang. And that word hanging in me
Mhm.
would consume me to the point where I actually thought that if I took the time to acknowledge what I was doing, so like even after winning an Olympic gold medal, I mean, that was the height of the perfectionism for me,
Mhm. Mhm.
when I was dismissing the gold medal because I didn't win it by myself. I was a relay, I won a gold medal as part of a relay, and that wasn't good enough. So
Wow.
there was this, falling short of, so for me, all throughout, the thread throughout that's strongest is that I never actually embraced the joy and the accomplishments and meeting goals when I did, because there was that perfectionist voice of it's just not enough, on to the
Wow.
next. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I think the parents that are joining have younger kids. I mean, you were 18 or 19 in
Mm-hmm.
the Olympics, and this picture, and I'll just tell a quick story. This is me when I was 19, and I had this was my sophomore year at the University of Utah, and I was so lucky that I got recruited and signed, got a full scholarship. They had already won back-to-back national championships before I got there. So I entered a team that was already two-time national champions and the reigning current national champions. And they said to me, they said when I was a freshman in the first 2 weeks of training, the two captains huddled us up, and we had no seniors. We had two juniors, four sophomores, and two freshmen. We were a very small team. We had lost gymnasts to graduation and early retirement. And so they were saying it was a rebuilding year. They didn't think, nobody thought we had a chance. But the two captains came up and pointedly, like literally at our faces, me and the other freshmen, said, we've won nationals the last 2 years and we're going to keep on winning. So you're either with us or you're not. And I was like, half of me was scared and the other half was like, yes, I like to win, I like to work hard. So I had this dual, like a dual response. But my freshman year I did fairly well. I was fourth in the country, but I was getting used to college life, and I did probably put on just, I don't know, 5 pounds or something like that. We get, as young women, of course, we just get very hyper focused on our bodies, and in gymnastics this is absolutely the case, and I'm guessing to a certain extent the boys do as well. But my sophomore year I started the preseason and I had back pain, and it turned out I had a fracture in my back. So this picture was taken just a couple months after I got out of a body cast. I was in a body cast for 2 months, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to compete, but damn it, I was going to. So I didn't eat very much, and in fact, I developed some eating disorders, and I somebody casually had taught me to stick my finger down my throat. And then I ended up just doing it a lot. And I ended up getting so thin that I was shaking in practice. And so the thing was, is that I had to have success. I had to have the prepubescent body. I mean, I don't think I look 19 there. I think I look probably 14 or 15. And I think that perfectionism, even though I looked so happy, even though I loved competition, even though I loved working hard and I wanted to win, I was just consumed. I was obsessed with trying to be thin and be perfect. And especially with injuries, I was going to overcome. So, so that's that particular time that I didn't realize. And then let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. So perfectionism, I thought being a perfectionist was a good thing. Our perception is often, yes, an athlete who strives for perfection doesn't give up. I'm trying to figure out how to get this little screen thing. Aiming for perfection is awesome. That athlete wants it and they will have success. But wait, perfectionism can manifest itself in varying degrees. So this is the one thing. It's not a black or white, all or nothing thing. Perfectionism has degrees. So it's up to us, parents and coaches, to watch and listen to athletes, because we get so caught up in tasks, our jobs, the house, our marriage, or the divorce, or whatever's going on in our adult life, and we're not listening and observing the children. And I don't think that that's anybody's fault. That just happens. And so this is just a reminder, when they are obsessing or afraid or hard on themselves and only focusing on what's wrong, notice it. And notice in yourself, are you focusing on what's wrong? Because that's what we also do sometimes as parents, is that we're trying to have our child be great and have opportunity, and we want them to relax. We want them to eat healthy. We want them to be on time. We want. So maybe we're obsessing. When they are unable to relax, oh, sorry, I have to go back, and filled with tension or fear, they can't think clearly or perform well. And it's more likely they'll get hurt. At worst, perfectionism causes many unhealthy habits, disorders, and idealization, like feeling unhappy about life, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, body image issues, and even self-harm. So I'll just share briefly that, see, I'm trying to get out of this and I'm not doing well. There we go. The reason why I didn't go into a full-blown eating disorder, and Sam, I don't know what happened with you, you can share, is because I noticed that I was shaking in practice. I noticed that my weight was very low on the scale. And I will also say this was in college at a time where my coach had open conversations and team meetings with us to understand that we were a team first. And that was an ongoing theme and emphasis. And so I started to notice that I was very self-centered in my quest to be thin and perfect. And I was shaking and I didn't feel strong. And when I didn't feel strong, I thought, I'm not going to be able to perform. And that sort of snapped me a little bit into reality. And then that's when I was able to kind of start moving toward more healthy practices and that type of thing. Sam, what happened with you?
Yeah, so for me, so similarly, I did end up navigating an eating disorder as well. And I think that as I listen to you talk, it's so powerful. It's so powerful to hear other stories because you hear your own in it. And the piece about the wanting to get better and wanting to get better. And I think for me, what it ended up being was that I wanted to perfect myself, not my sport or craft. And that like distinction was massive. And I didn't know what was happening. So there's a moment that came up as you were talking, where I went to the Olympic Training Center for this camp of like, as I was rising in my sport and getting noticed and making, right on the cusp of making my first national team a few years out from Olympic trials. So I was 16, I'd say, at 15, 16, and they did all these measurements of my body, and they're doing all the analytics and all the stuff, and they came back to me to say, okay, so your stroke, in the water is near perfect, and so in order for you to get faster, you have to lose weight and maintain your strength, or you have to get stronger and stay the same weight. And so it was this purely like just data-driven discussion to this teenager where they're giving me feedback about the element of sport. And I heard it so deeply personally. I mean, as I would think that many teenage kids, girls and boys would. So for me, that was the beginning of it. And I too was very lucky that I went to a college. I was my first year of school where my coach noticed I didn't actually. And so my body didn't look the part of, right. I hadn't lost weight, but I was just, so it didn't look like you would expect an eating disorder to look. Right. But we know now that eating disorders take on all different forms. So I was able to work with a mentor who saved my life, our work together, truly. So yeah, it was that distinction of this, I can't pinpoint when, of like this slipping into a love for getting better, for then this love for this obsession with trying to perfect myself.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what happens is even at a young age, it can be, see the signs at 10, 11, 12 years old, because I know I started having those issues much younger. My older sister, she's 2.5 years older. She's the oldest of the 7 kids. I'm number 3. She skipped a grade from 4th to 6th grade because she was so damn smart. And she still got all A's, was still top of the class. And here I was just trying to get B's, and I got a couple A's and maybe a couple C's, but I wasn't like this star A student like she was. And she completely skipped 5th grade. So even then, I was in 2nd grade when she skipped. It just felt like I was not smart enough. I was not good enough. I'll never be smart like her. And I was very hard on myself. And so gymnastics, I could excel in gymnastics. So then I transferred, and it became my identity. I had to be successful. I had, like she was, I had to be somebody. Otherwise I was nobody. And I think that that's the thing, is that we even do this to our children unknowingly, is that if you aren't doing well, then who are you? What are you? What's your value? So I think we just have to notice the nuances of what our messages how they may be being received. How are they received by the child through their eyes, through their emotions? Because Sam, you were just saying, they're giving you technical, factual information about your stroke and your weight and your strength, yet you took that very personally about who you were and did you have any value, and you're nothing if you can't get the gold medal. And even after getting the gold medal with a team, it wasn't on your own. So it really is, how is our child receiving the information? What's going on with them? Not what was our intention. Although that is important too. We're going to get to that. All right, I'm going to go back to see if we can do, oh wait, here we are. All right. Trying to be perfect destroys confidence and self-esteem. And I am sadly not using my cursor very well. Here we go. I'm going to move this over here. Athletes who need to be perfect look to others for connection, belonging, and approval. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that Possibly, Sam, and I don't know how you feel about this, but possibly if they balanced that information by, you are such a great person, you're a leader, we need you. And again, a balance, between the technical and then the personal, who you are as a human being, because we do need approval. And athletes will seek that approval through coaches, teammates, social media, especially now if they're older than 12 years old, because perfectionism is an ongoing cycle. They can never get enough. They will always need more. So it takes a lot of courage and compassion for a child or a teen to look inside themselves and be kind to themselves as they struggle. And that's the thing, is that as parents and coaches, is that when they're struggling, we might find ourselves feeling frustrated. When they're having trouble again, when they forgot something again, when they are getting frustrated again, then we start to react to that. So then where's the compassion and where is the patience? And how are we truly looking through their lens of what their inner pain is at that moment? And so how to connect to their inner pain is through patience and pausing and being curious. That's one of the key things, is being curious. Not saying I know my child, not saying I know my athlete, but being curious. Coaches and parents, when we detach from needing a result, when we detach from needing them to fix it, to remember, to excel, to get the grade, or get the skill that they're working on. Okay. If we want it more than they do, or we're feeling triggered by them not having it, that's a sign that it's becoming more about what you want instead of what they're feeling. All right. So when we detach from needing a result, then we are with them in the process. We are with them in the struggle, not like in the audience watching them struggle, not from the parent view, but we are actually there side by side with them. We can show understanding and compassion, and in that way, we also teach self-compassion and courage to be vulnerable, not hold it inside, but to breathe and be vulnerable, and then keep striving. All right. Let's see if I can move this over again. Perfectionism versus healthy striving. So I am a big fan, I think, Sam, you are too, of Brene Brown. Brene Brown, author, researcher, and professor at the University of Houston, wrote in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And if anybody does really have further interest in this subject matter, and you haven't read The Gifts of Imperfection, I highly recommend it. Perfectionism is not the same as striving to be your best. I really want to make a clear distinction between perfectionism and healthy striving. Perfection is not about healthy achievement and growth. Okay, that's what we want for our children. We want growth. We want healthy achievement. We want them to be developing their minds and emotional intelligence. And I'm going to get to that as well. Perfectionism focuses on what's missing, what's wrong, what's broken. So just pause for a moment and think, have you looked at yourself that way? What's wrong? What's missing? What's broken? Or your child, what's wrong? What's missing? What's broken? What's happening? What did they forget again? If your mind is going in that direction, even if you don't say it, you're putting out that energy. They can feel it. Absolutely. It makes you feel inadequate, behind, or stuck. Whoever here has ever felt inadequate? Who has felt inadequate in the last month? Even if it's for 5 minutes, we all experience these feelings. So just notice it. And you can even share that. And that's another powerful thing, is sharing that with your kids. Yeah, sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing good enough. And that's being human. fully vulnerable and human. Striving is looking for the good. And this is where I'm going to tell you a Lori story. For the progress and positive change. I'm learning and I want to get better. Brene Brown says healthy striving is self-focused. How can I improve? Perfectionism is other-focused. What will they think? So if you see any signs in your child or an athlete or yourself of what will they think, you know, if your child is worried about what you're going to say or what you're going to think, that's just a sign, just notice it. Then they are other focused. And that can, you know, kind of move into perfectionism. It's not always, it's not black and white, that you just have to notice the symptoms. Okay? Overcome, reframe. Overcoming perfectionism requires reframing our relationships with sports, life, others, and ourselves. Rather than seeking perfection, we must find meaning. What is meaning? What is meaning? I have to move my cursor. Okay. Practice inner calm and concentration. Be an inspiration for others. So on the left, you'll see these little girls sitting down and they're breathing and relaxing. This was a class, a little workshop that I taught probably 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. And this is what I do in my clinics. And this is what I do when I work with athletes, is teaching them to get calm. And this helps with their concentration, because often we're all distracted. Our eyes, we see, our ears, we hear, you know, there's always something going on. And it is very, very difficult for athletes in general who are about movement, action, do it, go, make improvement, not good enough, keep going. It is very, very difficult for them to naturally be calm. So we need to do this with them. So practice with them. Practice inner calm and concentration. Meaning is, you know, inspiration. If you inspire another athlete, it doesn't have to mean that you are doing a spectacular performance. It can mean that you are just out there giving it your best effort. That is inspiring. You know, that positive energy. And then look up to your gymnast and show gratitude. So in this bottom right picture, I was at a training camp coaching. This was TOPS National Training Camp, and I did this exercise with the coaches, and I asked them to get down on their knees and to hold their gymnast's hands, look them in the eyes, and say, I am so thankful that you are my gymnast and that I get to coach you. And I'm so thankful that you work so hard every day. And I'm so thankful to be your coach. And these kids were just grinning. And the coaches afterwards were like, oh my God, that felt so great. We don't do that. We don't, even as parents, do you get down on your knees with your kids and say, thank you, I get to be your mommy. Thank you for waking up and making me smile. Thank you for just being you. It has nothing to do with their achievements or even their effort. It's just showing up. It's just being you. The more that we say thank you, then they will feel your gratitude. And that's how they learn. They learn through experience, okay, through feeling, not just by us telling them, you got to be grateful. That's not going to do it. They have to experience it, okay? And this is very, very important for all of us. Okay, so this says there is, oops, I went forward. Trying to move my silly cursor around again. There is purpose in supporting Sorry, I'm going to go back and forth until I figure this out. All right. There is purpose in supporting others and in sharing positive values. Just quickly, this gymnast, I coached her for many, many months, and she was afraid of her coach. Her coach was very hard on her, and she felt pressured to please them, to keep going, to try do skills she wasn't ready to do, that she was having mental blocks. She didn't feel safe, and that concerned me. So I hope, talk to your kids about, especially in gymnastics, where they're going to flip and fall on their head, peel off the bars, split the beam, fall off the rings or the pommels or whatever they're doing. They need to feel safe, because it's a calculated risk. It's a calculated risk that they've done enough drills that they feel like they're right there. They want to do it. It's not just the coach making them do it. So she made this sign, I go, and look how big the I is. I go at my own pace, because coaches are like coaching the group. Come on, everybody, come on, let's go, let's go. And so you feel like all of a sudden, what? I can't slow down. I can't look different. So kids need to know that it's okay to slow down, to feel safe. It's okay to slow down, to get ready, to be ready. Okay? When they're calm and clear, they will be able to then perform better. Okay? Very important. I'm going to hopefully there we go. All right. So I'm going to open this up. We're a little past, or about the halfway mark, a little past. Open this up for any comments or questions at this point. I've been going through, I'm almost done with that, and I want Sam to speak on more on her story and mental health first aid. But any comments or questions at this point from anybody? Does the perfectionism and your connection, seeing any signs in yourself, does that resonate with anybody? Anna or Ciara? I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, Ciara. Does that resonate with you? And if so, what do you notice either in yourself or your child with any of the perfectionism symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can definitely see with my son that I am probably naturally also a perfectionist, and I didn't grow up like doing gymnastics the way he does, but I grew up doing cheer as a flyer, so a lot of like body image things and just perfectionist mentality.
Yeah.
And we do, because I'm also a therapist, so I do try to encourage him. But I think whenever he feels, I see I can confuse his desire for perfectionism as seeing it as like a good thing,
Yeah.
So when he wants it, instead of slowing him down, maybe, then I'm like, well, how can we get there? And instead of, I think on a couple of skills where he can get frustrated, or he'll come home disappointed that, he didn't hit what he was supposed to hit or whatever. Instead of just sitting with that and figuring that out, being like, going with him on, well, what can you do? Just automatically going to that next step of like what he can do. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's so true, is that we want to help our child. We want to help them reach their goal. And when they're struggling, okay, well, what can we do? And so I'm so glad that you're, confessing or connecting with yourself that you feel that you have those tendencies, because it's only just noticing it And once you notice it, then you can say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to slow down. It's not going to be my intention to fix this or literally help him fix it. It's just notice your feelings, because emotions come and go. So one moment there's going to feel pressure and panic, and then the next moment, okay, somehow we'll figure this out, and just being patient. Sam, did you have a thought?
I would love to share this, something I learned from a friend who's a writer, and so in her words, she was telling a story about her daughter spilling milk as a young kid trying to help in the kitchen, and how she just instantly kind of got on her. And I saw myself in that.
Mm.
And so I have to, so for me, when you were talking about almost like when kids, when they're making mistakes, when we're finding ourselves irritable in that way, that is, this not jumping on it, right? Not trying to fix, not trying, and watching my response to when they do make mistakes, to create a culture in our home where making mistakes is okay. Yeah, and the story, so, athlete hat on for a minute, one of the most painful experiences that I had was when I was, swimming at a competition, and I won 10 out of 11 events, and I got second place in one. And I came home to show my dad what I had done, because I was really, I think part of my story I'm realizing is that I was trying to get his love, and that's how I thought I needed to, was by achieving. And his comment to me was second place. And, what's this? And he was joking, but in that joking way, right? What you were saying around our intentions are important, and also how did they hear us? And so for me, in both those instances at the training center and then with my dad, they were painful. So as a mom now of, littles that are loving sport, I also have to watch my own self and how I'm responding to their mistakes. It's hard work.
It is.
So,
it is.
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna, to keep things moving along, I'm gonna try and finish up this. There's so much to talk about. Okay. What do you value, and how can you support athletes? Talk to all athletes about emotions and how to manage them. Put up an emotions chart. Practice emotional intelligence. Emotions are warning signs to alert us when something is wrong. Athletes need to be in tune to recognize the warnings. And this is from my book, Focused and Inspired. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to get out of this if I can. There we go. And go to another. Okay. So this is from my book, Focused and Inspired, and it's practical tips how to facilitate emotional intelligence. And I'm not going to read all of this, but it says emotional intelligence, or EQ, is recognizing emotions in yourself, understanding why you're having certain feelings. So we want to be curious about why our child is feeling, and managing your emotions in a mature and thoughtful manner. To help athletes manage their emotions, you'll look at yourself first. Yay! We always want to look at the child. Well, they're getting upset, they're having a breakdown. Well, okay, well, what are you doing? For instance, you usually wake up in the morning. This is for a coach's view. Do you enter practice thinking, I want the team to make progress today? Do you drop off your child thinking, I hope you make progress today? Or do they come home and you're like, how did you do? Really, it's how do you feel? Okay. What did you like? Not how did you do? Did you get the skill yet? Don't ask that question. What went well? Do you want to share, the highs and the lows? Up to you. If so, how does that feel to you? Exciting, worrisome, stressful? Notice how you feel. Do you feel urgent? that you want to get that information. We cannot teach unless we truly understand and practice attention on our own thoughts and feelings. So these are the practical tips. I just say, you know, make 1 week, I pay attention to my thoughts and feelings. You can do this with your child. You can do this, you know, when they're 5 and 6 years old. Are you happy? Are you sad? Do you feel excited? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel scared? We need to talk about emotions with our kids. This is how they learn it, to pay attention when you share. I'm feeling. Smile big and show them your notebook. So you can keep a small notebook with you. Tell your athletes, I'm paying attention to my thoughts and feelings this week. And it says, tell them you're learning about yourself. Okay, so as a parent, I'm learning about myself to be a better parent. This will be curious to them, and gently suggest that they might do it too. Don't make them do it. It's not a job. It's not an assignment. Do not have expectations. You are leading by example. Buy and put up a chart of emotions, or a feelings chart with faces and feelings. Okay, so I'm just going to skip ahead. Explain to your child or your athlete that you value feelings. Your feelings are important to me. Okay, you believe in good communication. So this is my and but you can buy them. I can even show you the one I have here. And it's letting your kids be able to be in tune with emotions. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I'll show you right here. This is one that I just bought off the internet, and I've been in lots of therapy too. And we started with, how are you feeling? And it's not just one, you can have 3. You know, I'm kind of feeling this, this, and this. But the more that we emulate this comfort of talking about how I'm feeling, how are you feeling? That's your guide. That is the guide in how to deal with struggles. Okay. I'm going to finish up this. Explain and model that a calm mind allows an athlete to feel good, to learn, improve, and perform great. When you get calm, you can think clearly, focus much better, make wise decisions, and perform great. Model and practice getting calm, feeling peaceful at least 2 minutes a day. So in my family, with all the gaggle of 7 children, we would all sit at the dinner table and say a dinner prayer. And we'd hold hands and close eyes and be quiet. And then we went to church. But then in sports psychology, what I learned in mental training was how to get calm. And so that wasn't about family prayer, but it kind of felt the same as just being calm and peaceful. And connecting to your breath. Right in the moment when an athlete feels stuck, scared, nervous, tense, they may need space for 5 minutes or longer, but mostly they need connection and compassion. So we can't fix something right in the middle of the struggle. That's when the emotions are high. Okay, when your child is feeling panicked or scared or nervous, that's the time to just be quiet, connect, be compassionate. When you are compassionate and support athletes' emotions, you are supporting the human being where they are at. All right. This is about my family and how I grew up, but this is me and my kids. Put up positive signs and messages. Now, my kids are older now. This is probably close to 10 years ago. On your walls during your day. Put it on your walls. We are calm. We are a calm family. Smile. People will wonder what you're up to. My mom had this little plaque that had all these little emojis. They weren't called emojis back then, but there were straight face, straight face, straight face, and then there was a happy face, and all the straight face people were looking over with their eyes at the happy person. Yeah, smile. People will wonder, wow, what are they up to? Seek inner peace. Is there anything on your walls, on your refrigerator, on your mirror, in the kitchen, anywhere, over the fireplace that has anything about seeking inner peace? Look for the good, it's coming. So my mom would always say that. I'd be, having tension or struggles at the gym, and she'd go, well, she goes, guess what? You got to look for what's coming next, because something good is coming. And I was like, what? But it made me think about it. Well, she goes, it may not come tomorrow. It may come next week, but keep looking for it. It made me curious. When is that good thing coming? So I was looking for the good. I wasn't like swimming in my own misery. My mind shifted to look for the good. Listen to soft music, compliment each other. If this is your highest intention to notice the good in your child, notice the good in yourself, notice the good in your dog, notice the good. Hug a lot, walk, spend time listening to the birds. The answer is inside you. Be patient, it will come. Believe, believe, believe. So we don't teach our kids all the time that they have wisdom, but they do. And that will help somebody who tends to feel like they're not good enough. They don't have it inside them. What's wrong with them is you have all the wisdom. You have everything you need inside of you. And I learned that for sure. All right. And then share your thoughts and feelings. Athletes often feel alone in their struggles. They think we don't understand. So listen, listen, listen. Tell your stories of when you were young and afraid, when you were nervous, when you felt rejected, and just sit there. Feel it with them. That's empathy. And gratitude is the ongoing giver of joy. If you practice gratitude openly, I'm so thankful for this, just like that picture I showed with the coaches and the little gymnasts. That's when we feel filled up, okay, instead of lacking. You have everything you need. You're grateful. We can teach and model for our athletes. Keep believing in them instead of worrying, instead of wondering, when's it going to get better? Just believe it's going to get better. Your thoughts and feelings project all kinds of energy, okay? And they will feel it. They will feel that you doubt. They will feel that you're nervous. They will feel that you are worried. They'll feel it. And they'll feel it when you believe. That's okay. That's okay. Somehow, I don't know the answer, but somehow I believe it'll be okay. And that is powerful. All right. So that is my presentation. I have much more to share, but I'm sharing this time with Sam, and I want to hear more about athlete mental health or mental health first aid, and any other responses or thoughts on how you as a parent might want to suggest when you were going through your pain. What do you think a parent or a coach could have done differently if they knew?
So thank you. This so much of what you talk about and write about, which is why I'm infusing it into my own parenting, truthfully. I think where we have such, where we're very aligned is in normalizing the struggle and seeing our kids as humans and knowing that there's a magic inside of them, that inner wisdom, and teaching them to trust that. And also, so not seeking something outside of themselves. So there's, I'm digesting as you're talking. So this is like, shifting roles here. I think, to answer your question, what I've learned about perfectionism in my own healing and now in the work I do around mental health and being out, as in, I love that you say activist, because I feel that fits. When I talk about these things and connect this idea of perfectionism to mental illness, because it goes, where there's perfection, there's shame, and that emotion is correlated to many mental illnesses. And so I think, to give concrete examples, I forget how old I was. I know I had just transitioned from a very toxic club team as a young swimmer. So a couple different spots where my mom did notice and it made a difference, and then where it would have been really helpful from parent coach perspective. So I was playing soccer and doing the multiple sport thing. And at 13, 14, I had climbed up to a national level at swimming, junior national level. So I think it's similar to gymnastics in some ways, where it's like junior national level and then national level, and then there's Olympic trials. So I didn't have the language to talk about, like, I didn't know I could feel more than one thing. I didn't have the emotional literacy. And if I had that, honestly, that alone, I don't know where my trajectory would have gone.
Yeah.
Because the way that the coaches were talking to us was abusive, and I didn't know what to do with that. So I turned inward and I was just trying harder, right? That perfectionist looping, except my inner wisdom was screaming at me to get out. So I ended up, as someone that took great pride in my schoolwork and my sport, I ended up getting kicked out of practice, not wanting to go. And my mom saw a drastic shift in my behavior. And so spending more time in my room, well, that's typical of our kids as they're kind of peeling away from childhood. But my mom noticed and had a conversation with me and said, do you even want to swim anymore? And so that turning toward and tuning in for me, I didn't even at that time say to her, yes, and here's why. I just said yes. And so we changed teams. So that noticing that you talk about is so powerful. And if we can learn alongside, because I wasn't taught emotional literacy growing up. And it's not even, it's kind of talked about in schools. There's a movement for that. But if we can be explicit with that, then we can help our kids get equipped with the language and ourselves, so that we're understanding, like you say, emotions are transient, they're messages.
Yeah.
And I think then the second piece in my, now I had transitioned to a new club team, and that's where I skyrocketed from like, a collegiate level swimmer in the mix, kind of getting recruited to one of the best in the world. At my highest, I was ranked 6th in the world, and that was within 3 years. It was a really rapid ascent. And that during that time, I had one of my birthdays. I forget how old I was turning, but my grandmother made me my favorite cake. And this was post that experience of that training center where they told me I had to, so I was falling into eating disordered behavior, because I thought, well, if I have to lose weight and maintain my strength, then I can't eat anything bad. So that all or nothing you talked about was very present. So I ended up in tears and running to my room because I had a cake, and I was so angry at my mom that she made a cake on my birthday. So that extreme behavior, noticing that and getting curious about that. And my mom just took it as me, in that moment, she just took it as me being a brat, like bratty behavior. You're, like, however she dismissed it, but nothing, that was a big red neon sign. And I don't blame her. I think we learn and grow. But that would have been, to give examples. And then my coach, going to a meet and being in the middle of it, part of the perfectionism manifested for me in competing. So I was about 6 months out from trials. I had taken a year off of school. I hadn't gone to college right away so that I could, focus on trials. And that spring nationals, I swam poorly in the first event. So I packed it in. So again, there was that all or nothing behavior. So I think at what you're talking about and teaching, I don't just say that to say it. Like, I really believe that these messages build the foundation for us to become better noticers as adults and equip the kids with the skills that they need so that we can intervene, because perfectionism is linked to mental illness when it comes to the mental health first aid piece and all of that. So
definitely. Well, thank you for that. So I know we're at the hour, and Anna had to go. I want to absolutely have Sam give us a couple minutes here just to talk about the mental health first aid. I'm going to be doing this training next week, I believe, or it's coming very soon in the next couple weeks. And I know that Ewan has both books, the focus books. I don't know if Sierra has Focused and Inspired. Can you give me a yes or no, Sierra?
I didn't hear that last part. What was that?
I think you said you ordered Focused and on Fire. Do you have the other book, Focused and Inspired? Okay. I would like to give that to you. So I'm going to get your address and send that to you. Yay. But yeah, give us a 2-minute thing here, Sam, on a mental health first aid.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful that you're coming along. You're going to come and join us. So because this is just about, the real short answer is essentially changing the way we talk about mental health, emotions, all of this in the same way we talk about our physical health. So we have CPR, coaches are trained in that to be noticers. They know the signs and symptoms. They know who to call, who to go to, how to onboard help. And so in the same way, mental health first aid is sponsored by the National Council for Behavioral Health in the US. It's an international program, and it's about equipping any adult who's youth facing with the skills that they need to recognize and respond to a youth who may be navigating a mental health challenge or substance use challenge. So it's, yeah, that's my big work right now, is bringing that into the athletic arena. And, it's like one piece of the puzzle, like we talked about.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think it's just so different now. Our sports world is evolving and transforming into noticing that the athlete's mental health is such a key component to their ability to not just perform well, but continue as a healthy human being. Because we didn't correlate that before, that all the toughness, all of the persistence and endurance and strength and everything that they needed as an athlete, that pursuing that could actually hurt their mental health. We never really talked about that before, at least not to the extent that it is so blatant now of a topic in the sports world when all these athletes are speaking up. And it starts when they're young. It starts when my son Conrad, he's 20 now, but when he was even 3 and 4 years old, I knew how important it was because of what I went through as an athlete and the fear and psychological setbacks and like an amnesia, losing my skills after I crashed on a double back. That getting calm is a skill. And that even a small little person can learn the wonderful feeling of being peaceful, lying on your bed, in your blankets, with your pillow, and noticing I am at peace. And so I said, just imagine that the big sun in the sky, it's so warm, and you can take that sun and make it small and put it in your tummy. And now your tummy feels nice and warm, and it's glowing all throughout your body. And so we just had this little imaginary moment of the sun being in his tummy, and he laid there and just thought about it. Oh, the sun is in my tummy. And I think that that's just something that we don't always click into, is using our imagination with our child. And my mom used to do that with me all the time. I have other stories that are in my books. But I am so glad that you are all here today. And I'm going to just open it up for any last comments or questions. Ewan, any thoughts, or Sierra, as we're here at the end?
I just want to say thank you so much, Coach Lisa and Samantha. Really appreciate that you're here today. With perfectionism, I mean, it's great, but we're not there yet, because my daughter's really young as a gymnast, very early, she just started, level 3. So she's not there yet. But I do notice, like for me growing up, I tend to be a perfectionism in academics.
Mm,
She does very well. My son does very well academically. But I don't want them to feel like that's it, you
right.
know? And I see, you know, like, and for her, she's still enjoying gymnastics really
Yeah.
well. I've seen families that they push their daughter so much, even though they're the same age, only like, you know, 7, 8 year olds, they push,
Yeah.
they dropped out. And of course, with COVID, it made sense. They dropped out.
Right.
Just burn out. I mean, I remember the girl told my daughter, and it's like, you're so lucky. Your mom is not making you do all this extra stuff or find
Wow.
equipment at home. And my daughter's like, yeah, we don't have any of that. Did. But my daughter was like telling me, like, how come we don't have that? I'm like, no, we're not getting trampoline. No, that. That's why we paid the tuition for the gym.
Yeah.
But then later on, she realized it. She's like, oh, mommy, they bought all that. And now she quit. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
I think that's their decision, I said. But I think it was like the whole thing with the parents was not in tune. What you said, they did not see the signs that their child was being burned out literally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I guess my thing was, you know, I joined because I listened to your other ones and I really like your sessions. My whole thing was like building confidence. And I know you kind of touch base saying professionalism, and sometimes they don't have the self-confidence. They don't see the big picture.
Yeah.
And I just want to see if like there's anything else you want to add to about the self-confidence part. I guess I haven't read that part in your books. Maybe I should just skip to it and find the chapter. But like about building self-confidence. Because sometimes
Yeah.
I feel like my daughter is, because this season is not a normal meet season.
Right. Right.
Nothing. But they're doing these like little meets just only at the gym. And it's still virtual. No parents can attend.
Right.
Having a class, but they just linking it. And they actually having judges, I guess. They're having one this weekend, actually.
Okay.
But it's because it's been so long since last spring. She's starting to have a little anxiety already. She's like, how if I don't do well? And it's hard. I'm like, honey, you usually do really well. Because she's in the past, she's always been like the top, you know, always first place.
Well, let me address that. And thank you so much for sharing all that, because it is noticing and being in tune. But when your daughter, and this goes for all kids and even for us, when she starts to feel nervous,
Mhm.
and you just said, but you're okay, you've done okay. You're basically, in a loving way, you're dismissing that her nervousness is valuable.
Mhm.
Nervousness means it's important to her, that she wants to do well. It's not a bad thing. Nerves are good. I always tell the gymnasts, hey, you're nervous? All right, that means we're getting ready. Nerves are good. And just say, okay, well, that means we're getting ready. That means you're gonna go have fun. You know, it's important. That means you get to focus. Okay. When you start to get nervous, then you get to be in tune with your breath and your body and your thoughts. It's a little alert. Hello, hello, this is important. Yay! We're not just sitting on the couch watching TV. We get to go do something that's important. So
Okay.
yeah, and that is in the book, and Focused and on Fire, about that nerves are good. So we're going to wrap it up though, but so thank you, Ewan, for saying all that. Sierra, any final thought or question? I know I'm going to talk with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do have a question about just the in your own time component, but I mean, we can also maybe talk about that tomorrow, but because I think, you know, sometimes they need the more time and practice, but it's hard to pull them away from. So like Ethan's only 11, but he's level 8 and he knows, because he's old enough now, that season is starting soon.
Right.
So he knows he needs more time in practice, and he's gotten better about taking the deep breaths, doing some affirmations. But then when he comes home, he's like, I don't have time to be doing this. I have competition in whatever, 2.5, 3 months, you know, so he's still crunching a timeline
Right.
naturally. And as a parent, I'm just like, well, yeah, those are the facts, you know? So I'm like, yeah, that's true. And then, so yeah, I don't know how to balance that and help him balance that.
Yeah. So let me address that. And you and I'm going to touch on the confidence part that you were asking about as well. When our children learn that it feels good to get calm, when our children experience it, when they learn that it feels good to notice and be in tune with their thoughts. Oh, I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that. This gives them a sense of control over themselves. It gives them a sense of being in charge of themselves instead of somebody always telling them, you shouldn't feel that way. Why are you nervous? You're okay. That's somebody else's view. When they get in tune with themselves, that gives them a sense of confidence about knowing themselves. And this, we can start teaching this at a young age. Ooh, you know that about yourself. Wow, you're very smart. Okay. When they feel intelligent, that gives them confidence. Okay. So it's really being in tune with their thoughts, their feelings, their breath, and being able to manage that. When we help them notice, you look a little tense. Are you feeling, tense or nervous? What's going on with you? Then they can share it. Say, oh, well, okay. Would you like to feel calm? We can do that together. That's noticing, acknowledging, talking about it, and then taking steps to manage it. But we want to talk about it with them when they're not feeling that urgency. Oh my gosh, I've only got this many days left to train, like the crunch time. Because then our minds, like you said, Sierra, you agree. Yeah, you're right. You only have that much time left. But you want to talk about it when it's open family time, time in the kitchen, time sitting down, hugging each other. You know what? I think that we can practice this, and because the magic is that when you trust the process and you relax and you don't feel like it's urgent, things start to open up. Your body relaxes, your performance starts to flow. You'll make improvements faster than you imagined. So when you trust the process of all the hard work that you've been doing and mentally and emotionally being in tune with yourself, you actually relax and you begin to be able to perform better instead of, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Oh my gosh, I only have this much time left. Okay. So we get triggered as parents to the schedule. We get triggered by our kids' emotions. We get triggered by a timeline. Instead, open it up. All right, you're going to be okay if, and we're going to do this. But it takes a lot of practice and integrating it in your lifestyle and putting on your wall, I believe, I trust the process. I am patient. I am calm. When you fill your family life with these values and what you want to feel, then it'll become familiar. And then they'll be more able to remember it and apply it. So I hope that helps. Sam, any final thoughts or response to that?
Oh, I'm nodding. Yes, I've really enjoyed listening to you and learning from you. And I share, as a sports mama too, I share in these spaces. So I feel like I've taken so much away. Yes. Thank you. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so glad. Well, I will tell you one quick little story. My daughter, when she's 22, she's 22 now. She plays basketball. She's at the Air Force Academy. She's on the club team. She's fantastic because she's funny and she laughs at herself. And I think she learned that from me. But she's got a great bubbly personality. Anyway, when she was 12, and she said, I asked her one day in the car, I said, so what are your goals? Do you have some goals? And she goes, oh, yes. And I used to coach at Stanford University, and her dad had worked there for many years. And she had gone to the basketball games and knew who Tara Vanderveer was and everything. And she said, well, I want to get a scholarship to Stanford. I want to play for Stanford. I want to be on a national championship team at Stanford. And then I want to coach at Stanford and win a national championship team. And I was like, well, I think we better get to work. So it came from her. And all I knew at that moment was that she was motivated. That's what the message was. So it's not that she has to reach that goal, is that she was in this feeling of being motivated. How fun is that? She doesn't need to reach a goal. That's life. Just feeling that motivation. Wow, what are you gonna do? And so she would get out of the car for practice and I'd say, okay, now remember, she'd go, I know, Mom, have fun, and then I'll do well, or something like that. She would reiterate my little momisms, right? When I believe in myself, then I'll do better. You know, she would say, and I would say, yeah, okay, I don't need to say anything. So we get to teach our kids these things and we get to model it. And I hope that this whole presentation and sharing with Sam has been really helpful for you. I want to be an ongoing resource for you. And Sierra, I'm looking forward to talking with you tomorrow, but thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Right.
Stay well. Bye-bye.
Bye. Sam, you want to stay on for a minute?
Oh, you are incredible. So I was like swirling inside with some of the things they resonate.